All right, and we're back with the program. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. It is night 2 of WrestleMania, and that is in the books. And WrestleMania as a whole is done for this year in 2021. And like I said, it's in the books. Night 2 of WrestleMania. We had a lot of championship title changes. Some of it deserved, some of it not. But that's another story altogether, and that would take too long to explain because I've already probably gone on that diatribe before, one too many times. But it was WrestleMania Night 2, and here today to talk about WrestleMania Night 2 is a good man indeed. You got to follow him anywhere you can at Hunnick Outcast and Hunnick Queen on Facebook. It is Noah Ian Fein, and Noah, I know it's late for you, my friend. I know you stayed up for it. In fact, that's pretty much par for the course now with WrestleManias these days. But it was the weekend that was for WrestleMania. Night 2 is in the books, but I appreciate you joining me here today.
Hey, this is a part I can stay up all night long for. At the time, WrestleMania is not what it used to be. This is probably... I lost track of what the worst WrestleMania was. At the time, I would have said 9 was the worst. Or 11 was the worst. They're just getting longer and dragging, and boy, I'll tell you, the booking. First of all, I got to talk about Hulk Hogan as a pirate. There's already been a joke about this where if he does the drop, is going to be a peg leg. He looked like a 80s action figure more than ever. I'm sure there's going to be a bobblehead of him, or the Funko Pop of him as the pirate. It was embarrassing, to say the least. Even Iron Sheik had something to say, which I can't discuss on this podcast, but that's how embarrassing it was. The matches...
Well, we'll get into the matches. We'll get into the matches right now. Again, it was Night 2 at WrestleMania. Another, I guess, maximized crowd for what they could do under the circumstances. 30,000 plus here tonight at Tampa Bay. Again, it was Night 2 of WrestleMania. A lot of people were looking forward to this because it had a lot of marquee matches on the card. First up on the list was Randy Orton and The Fiend in a feud which I was hoping would go away a lot sooner rather than later, but hopefully that they could go ahead and, after tonight, move on to bigger and better things. But Randy Orton, after a short match, I guess it was okay for what it was. Defeated The Fiend. Also, I guess The Fiend got distracted by Alexa Bliss, who came out of the Jack in the Box, which he originally came out of. Had some black goo coming all over her face and all over her body and all that stuff, trying to look all creepy and stuff. My friend, again, it was for the match itself. It was all right for what it was. It's something like I think you should have put on TV. I really think that Alexa Bliss is better served being one of the preeminent women in the women's wrestling division. She's extremely popular with the fans. I mean, I want to go into the cameos this weekend that were offered, and hers was the highest price that was sold out. So I know there's a lot of people that really appreciate what she does. I'm okay fan as far as her is concerned. I'm not liking this gimmick that she's working right now with The Fiend. I think it detracts from her capabilities, but again, they kept it short, and be that as it may, it turned out again a loss for The Fiend because Randy Orton did hit him with the RKO, something that I expected to hopefully blow off this feud once and for all.
How many years has Randy Orton been in the business? And might I add, WrestleMania is usually where feuds begin or end. I had forgotten that these two were feuding. I know they feuded once before for the Universal Championship, I think, or the WWE Championship, and that was that Firefly Funhouse match, or there was a House of Horrors match or something that they wrestled in. Even then, I had little to no interest where they just had to, leave a house. Here, he's back. I'm glad that they did this with a live studio audience, and I mean, the best thing about the match was the opening. The rest of it, I just didn't care too much about. The black glue, I thought was kind of distasteful, especially with everything that's going on in the world today. As for the match, this is an opening match. Doesn't say much. I gave this 1.5 stars.
Like I said, it was something that you could probably put on TV and it would get over a lot better. Doing it in front of an audience, like you said, outside the opening of the Fiend coming down the aisle in a big, huge box that was set up where Alexa Bliss goes ahead and turns it like a jack in the box, and he pops out. Again, everybody oohed and awed about that. But outside of that and her having the black glue, it was just a normal TV match that they had, with nothing really out of the realm of what we've seen before from them. So again, this hopefully ends this useless feud, and they can go on to different things at this point in time. But Randy Orton did pick up the win. Want to go ahead into the next match, which took seemingly forever to go ahead and finish. I think this would have been a nice, hard-hitting match in about 3 to 5 minutes. Instead, they dragged this out to 14 minutes. And that was the tag team title match, women's tag team title match between Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, who were the champions. They defeated Tamina and Natalya, who won the previous night on night 1 of WrestleMania in a number 1 contenders gauntlet match. They won the titles over Tamina and Natalya, something that was not unexpected because the women's tag team title division, as I've talked about with John Orlando from the PVD cast, it's just not there. Tamina and Natalya, I guess, are the strongest contenders, but still they're not overwhelming with the fans. And right now it just looks like it's going to be Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler on top of the women's tag team division for some time to come.
0 stars.
That's
other than she's related to Snuka. Yeah, I mean, I have nothing to say. I have no respect for it. People have been complaining about her for years now. She's kind of like the Key Mabel of the women's division, where she's just hurting people, but somehow because she's related to Samoans, she's getting away with it. But no, and my whole meme that was going around, no, I've never been impressed by Nia Jax and Tamama, Tahua.
Well, what's your thoughts on the match itself? Your thoughts?
Horrible. Just 0. Just move on. Horrible.
It was not an impressive match. It did drag quite a bit for me, and it was probably the worst match of the evening. Unfortunately, again, it should have been a hard-hitting match under 5 minutes. I think it would have been made for much more entertaining time. But you know what? They did it. They went out 14 minutes, and unfortunately, it came out like it did. But again, the only team I think that's worth noting in the women's tag team division, Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, retained their titles, and they move on, most likely to go ahead and defend every Monday and Friday, which I like that concept. So I like the gimmick that the tag team title holders of the women's division actually get to go ahead and defend it on both the Monday and Friday show. I think the men's divisions should follow the same suit. But the next match that came up was Kevin Owens facing off against Sami Zayn, with Logan Paul sitting there at ringside doing nothing until the very end, because they had to go ahead and do something with him so that he would earn his money, because I know he's probably being paid a lot. But Kevin Owens, after a okay match, it was a nice match for what it was, defeated Sami Zayn. This is something that goes back to their days in the independent scene, as far as how much they know each other, or how much they worked each other. And you could tell they were very familiar with each other's work, and it was very smooth for what it was. I really appreciated the work that was in there. They both worked hard. And again, it just ended up with Kevin Owens hitting the stunner for the 1, 2, 3. And of course, at the end, he has to go ahead and get Logan Paul with a stunner too. Again, with these two, it's just that they're not really. There's nothing really special about this match. There was, all the storylines and things of that nature were not really very interesting. But your thoughts on Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn? A good, solid match, but nothing more.
Another 0 stars. I didn't care for either. I'm not a Kevin Owens fan. Sami Zayn deserves more. Logan Paul, I don't care for. And in all honesty, again, this was a blah match. This should have been the opening match, and it was just there was nothing to it. It was fast, quick, in a hurry, and that's my opinion on this one. So, also, 0 for 2 so far.
0 for 2 for okay. Well, again, so far it was just not something that. Yeah, I don't know. It just when it comes down to WrestleMania as a whole, you have a lot of filler matches, and that's what we were seeing a lot of times, was a lot of these filler matches that would probably be better suited on a stage set for Mondays or Fridays. Sheamus is in the next match against Riddle for the United States Championship. Matt Riddle, who you can only call by Riddle, with his the original dude bro type of concept. It was a pretty physical match. It reminded me in a lot of ways of the opening match yesterday in day one. Very physical, little clumsy at times. They missed some spots. They slipped up a couple times, but it was very physical at times. So I kind of liked that aspect. And at the very end, they had a great finish where Riddle was trying to do a flip off the ropes, and he caught a brogue kick from Sheamus right in the face and actually got cut up in the mouth because of it. And Sheamus defeated Riddle to win the United States Championship. I don't know. They keep on giving the title to Sheamus for every reason under the sun. But again, he doesn't move the needle in any shape or form. He's had many opportunities and has really not done nothing for the product. So I'm not exactly thrilled that he won. But you know what? Riddle doesn't seem like he's going ahead and getting everybody excited there either. But I want to hear your thoughts on Sheamus versus Riddle.
Sheamus, I actually have a soft spot for. Riddle, he kind of plays his interest game of put up or shut up in a way. But sadly, this is a 1.5 because I'm pushing the needle towards Sheamus. There are times he's got chemistry. I like the early Sheamus when he first came in. I know he was a Shawn Michaels and Triple H's guy back in the day, so I know why they keep giving him the championship. I just think he needs a more worthy opponent. He had a great feud with Cena when he first debuted. Since then, I don't think they really know who to book Sheamus with. Riddle,
dude.
Riddle. I'm not too sure what his gimmick is really supposed to be. He's just obnoxious. So I tried to push him. I tried to think he's like a white Jimmy Snuka, but he's just not doing anything for me. So a softball for Sheamus, that's I'm giving it 1.5. But they really have to give Sheamus somebody that's worthy of the Celtic Warrior.
Well, the Celtic Warrior indeed did come out with the victory with the U.S. Championship. Like I said, I like the ending of it. Again, they worked hard, physical match, but a lot of slip-ups, very clumsy. Again, it reminded me of night one with Drew McIntyre versus Bobby Lashley. Again, it was an all right match at best, but it could have been something much more special had they not had so many mess-ups. But the next match after that was a Nigerian drum fight with Apollo Crews versus Big E for the Intercontinental Championship. This was a surprise to me. I really thought they were going to stick with Big E. I thought the company had a lot of great intentions in mind for Big E, but Apollo Crews, after interference from a unknown giant, so we don't know who that is right now. He doesn't have a name yet attached to him or any type of identity as of yet. But the unknown giant came in at the end, hit Big E with a choke slam, and basically that was all she wrote. As the match ended at a 1-2-3 for Apollo Crews. Your thoughts on this Nigerian drum match, this Nigerian drum fight between Apollo Crews and Big E?
Oh, it definitely drummed up my interest, pardon the pun. Yeah, it was no disqualification, no count out. But Big E has never really gotten the respect that he deserves. I think that he should be up there with Kofi Kingston. It's nice he's doing singles. It's nice he's in turn on New Day. You know what? They want to pass the torch to Apollo Crews. I just want to see what these guys can do. I'm sure we're going to get a rematch in the next pay-per-view. But out of all the matches so far, this one was the best. I miss the old school Intercontinental Championship. I don't think that the Intercontinental Championship needed no disqualification to count out, especially if you're going to have outside interference. There's made about 0 cents for that. But I'm going to give this one a 2.5.
Yeah, I give it around the same thing. I think Apollo Crews is a worthy individual. I liked him even before the Nigerian gimmick that he has now. I liked him when he had the U.S. title run. So I really appreciate the fact that he's got great size and athleticism, And if he can get that charisma part going and get the fans behind him in one way or another, as far as for or against, I want to go ahead and say, yeah, he's got a nice future ahead of him. So, good for him. Congratulations to him. He is now the Intercontinental Champion, but I was kind of surprised that the Big E train, as far as him going up and up on the cars, seemingly has stalled as of now. The next match after that was a match that I knew was going to happen, but I'm very disappointed in happening, and that was Rhea Ripley versus Asuka for the Raw Women's Championship. Again, I would be here until next Tuesday, and I'm talking a week from next Tuesday, if I would go ahead and lay out all my arguments on the way that they've totally trashed someone who was very dependable and reliable for them during the bleak months of the early months of the coronavirus. But again, that's a long issue, and notwithstanding, she's been treated very badly. But this was not unexpected. I did call it, and a lot of other people call it, the favorite. Rhea Ripley came in like a house of fire. It was a really good match, a really solid match. And I think it was, for me, the best match of the night. And unfortunately for me, Rhea Ripley defeated Asuka to win the championship. Like I said, not unexpected, but certainly not deserved.
I'm going to play devil's advocate and give this one a 3.5. This is the second best match. It's a lot better what they did with WrestleMania.
But 3.5 still really good. So yeah.
Yes. It's a lot better than what they did for the Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, whatever, that Ronda Rousey match that made that the main event. I love them both. I really think that Rhea Ripley deserved the championship. Asuka, I don't think that the bookers know what to do with her at times. I don't think Vince McMahon really knows what he has when you got Asuka on your side. I understand why Kyrie left, and it's a shame. He didn't know what to do with Suzuki. It's a shame. These are really talented superstars. However, if you have to pass the torch, the good news is there was no outside interference.
Yeah.
That's the biggest.
And Rhea Ripley is, let me get this straight, Rhea Ripley is an extremely
very talented, yes.
Extremely talented individual.
Yes.
And I'm not slighting her in the least, but the fact is, when you set up Asuka in the past few weeks and made her weaker and weaker and weaker, and she's given a lot for this company, including her front teeth, courtesy of Shayna Baszler in the past weeks, I think you owe it to her to go ahead and have her keep the title for a little bit longer. I'm not expecting her to keep it long anyways, because you got Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch right around the corner. In fact, I'm assuming that they were there somewhere in Tampa because the COVID restrictions, I think, were off for Charlotte Flair. And I heard rumors that Becky Lynch was there in town anyways. So I know that they're lurking right there around the corner, and you're going to give the title back to them one of them at some point in time. Simple as that. Well,
I'm tired. I'm tired of Charlotte Flair. Other than
I'm just going to tell you. I understand. I understand. But I'm just saying that they're there, all right, lurking around the corner, and I get that. But I think you should have kept it on her for a little bit longer. Maybe even given a rematch to Rhea Ripley give her the win in August. But again, that's neither here nor there. It was still a very, very good match. 3.5 stars. I agree with you on that. I think that's, for me, it was just eked out above the main event of the evening, I think, for me. But still a very, very, very good match by both ladies. They worked hard, tremendous work, and it was not unexpected that Rhea Ripley won. So there you go. She is the new Raw Women's Champion. And that leads us into our main event of the evening, which was Edge versus Roman Reigns versus Daniel Bryan. Yes.
No.
For the Universal Championship, or basically the Friday title. We got to call this thing the Monday title and the Friday title, because that's what they're relegated to, because that's what this company is all about. But it was the Friday title, the Universal Championship, with Roman Reigns in what I expected. And I was surprised that he was not the betting favorite going in. But Roman Reigns did defeat Edge and Daniel Bryan and looked dominant in doing so, and got a lot of help from Jey Uso, a lot of interference, which for me was I hear you sighing already, but that to me was the difference right there. Way too much interference by Jey Uso, and with all that stuff going on, and I understand it was no disqualification too, but Yes, after a couple concertos, one by Edge on Daniel Bryan and one by Roman Reigns on Edge. It took that, and then 1, 2, 3, right there you go for Roman Reigns. Edge looks old, man. I'm just gonna say it out loud. Edge looks old. He can see it on his face. I know a lot of people had him as a betting favorite. I know Thomas Bennett. Get well, Thomas. Hope you get better soon. I know he was your favorite going in there, but he looked old, and I'm not sure you really wanted to go ahead and drop the title on him. But again, it was for me. It was going in Roman Reigns. You want to keep him strong as a bad guy, and I think they did just that.
He injured his neck 11 years ago for this business. He comes back. He made a surprise at last year's Royal Rumble. He made a surprise to win this year's Royal Rumble. For what? Not to win the championship. They had to throw Daniel Bryan in there. Please don't get me wrong. I'm a huge fan of Daniel Bryan. I did win the championship. But there's a certain point where I don't think the WWE knows to deal with Daniel Bryan either. You have these superstars, you don't know what to do with them because you keep depending on the five. Vince did this in the 80s, he did this in the 90s, and he's still doing it to this day. And I've realized that in this business, you don't ever bet on the favorites. You're giving it to Roman Reigns for reasons, again, because he's part of the Samoans, but I don't like him as a face. I don't like him as a heel. Paul Heyman advocating because they still have Paul Heyman under contract, whether it's him or Brock Lesnar. It's getting really boring. It's not the same as it was 10 years ago. And as for outside interference with Jey Uso, no, this championship is like a fruit roll-up. I just don't care for it. And in all honesty, is Edge old? Well, the years have not been good to him, but why come back from an injury to get injured again where he can be knocked out at any time? It's a lot better than last year's WrestleMania with his match, but that's because they didn't tape it and edit it the way that they did for this year, because this year was actually live. None of that matters because, unfortunately, it depends on who Vince is really pushing for. This one, for me, gave... because of the interference alone, which pisses me off because, again, on a pay-per-view, you're still doing an interference crap, 0.5. Misuse of all three. No, seriously, this is a misuse of Bryan. It's a misuse of Edge. And, again, it's a misuse of Heyman. You have three talented superstars plus Roman Reigns. No, I passed out, and when I opened my eyes again, I was livid. This is probably one of the worst, next to the Roman Reigns Brock Lesnar match for the Universal Championship, that nobody even cares about anymore because you have to have two different belts and two different factions. No, I just it was a waste of time. In all honesty, they really should have had the Rhea Ripley Asuka match as the main event. Because like last night they had, what was it, Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre in the opening match for a championship. Yeah, why do you put a championship match in the opening match? I don't get that for any championship. But that's besides the point. This was one of the worst championship matches that I say since the Roman Reigns Brock Lesnar.
I thought it was pretty good. But there was way too much interference for my taste. And I think, again, if you're comparing main events from night one to night two, night one with Bianca Belair versus Sasha Banks. Sasha Banks carried her to a tremendous match. I thought that was, for me, a highlight of the weekend. I also think that the match between Cesaro and Seth Rollins was really good. But your overall thoughts before we head on out on WrestleMania weekend?
Once upon a time, this meant something. This is a joke. This is a Saturday's main event type of thing. This was something. I understand why it's on Peacock right now, because NBC used to show this on Saturday nights until 1 o'clock in the morning. That's what this was. This wasn't WrestleMania. This was an old school Saturday night's main event and a horrible Saturday night's main event. This is probably in the books. I have not been enticed by a WrestleMania in decades, and this is not just icing on the cake. This is the candles have been lit on the cake. I will never rewatch this WrestleMania as long as I shall live. I will go back and watch other WrestleManias from the late 80s and 90s before I ever put this poor. Second of all, the other thing we never really talked about was that segment between Bayley with her whatever show she's doing and harassing Hogan and Titus O'Neil. Which
I don't waste
nobody
I don't go into all that filler stuff. All that filler stuff, those stage segments, they're really bad. They're really awful. They're reading lines and scripts behind whatever camera is being shown in front of them. I don't deal with that because it's always awful. If I just look at the in-ring product, and like I said, tonight for me again
this is crap.
It was not as good as night one. Night one was all right. Night two is a little less than all right, but there was, like I said, some great work by Asuka and Rhea Ripley. They both need to be commended on their work. There was a couple other matches that were okay, but other than that, like I said,
two matches.
Yeah,
two matches.
For me, I think there was three, but I will say this: that it's still, you don't have the specialness. Whether you put it one night or two, one night of 7 hours or 2 nights of 3.5, 4 hours, it doesn't matter. You need there are larger issues the WWE needs to face. I think when it comes right down to it, I mean, they need to find another dynamic individual that gets everybody excited. They don't have that, and I think it showed tonight.
No, they need better bookers. They need better writers. They need to get rid of 15 pay-per-views a year. No, selling this to Peacock did nothing. This is possibly...
Well, it did something for them. They get $1 billion in 5 years.
Yeah, well, that's great. Everybody gets paid, but we get ripped off. No, sorry. I don't know what else to say. I mean, other than the fact that this time it was live, this is one of the worst WrestleManias in the books. That's all. The end. The total WrestleMania between night 1 and night 2... I give this WrestleMania total of 1.5 stars. The worst.
Mine is a little bit higher. I think I'm going 2 to maybe 2.5. So again, for me, there were some pretty good moments again, and there's also some pretty bad moments as well. So just like every WrestleMania, but nothing got me cheering or excited or really. But I'm just glad to see that they're out in front of a live audience again, like they were in front of everyone as far as the 30,000 plus at Raymond James Stadium. I'm happy that there was a live WrestleMania once again. I'm concerned for those individuals, the fact that what's going on. I hope they're all vaccinated, although the odds say that they weren't. But again, it was WrestleMania, a 2-night event, and I'm hoping in the future they will reconsider their options. For me, it was a much easier watch because it wasn't 7 hours of draining watching. For me, I think it was a lot better that way. But some final thoughts and reflections on WrestleMania before we head on out?
Yeah, if you have Peacock and you have the WWE, go back and watch WrestleMania 5 or 8, and that'll tell you how great a WrestleMania could be, or 3, or even, if for the millennial, I would go with 15 or 17. Stop at 18. I know I did.
Once again, it's Noah Ian Fein. He's back from Hunting Queen. Check him out at Hunting Queen or the Hunting Outcast on Facebook today. And Noah, it's been just so tremendous having you here. I know this did not get you excited, but I appreciate your honesty as always, and I look forward to speaking to you in the coming weeks about all the great things that are going on in pop culture. Falcon and Winter Soldier is still going on strong. I know we'll talk about that in the near future right here at the Pop Culture.